Welcome to the Yankee and the Brit. I'm Jay. He's Maddie. Today we're going to finish up our division by division breakdown of offseason needs. And today we're going to end with the NFC North. And being that this is the closest one to my heart, because I'm an NFC North guy, but let's start with the divisional champions, the Green Bay Packers. And I'll just start by saying, I think the Packers actually did a great job of keeping core guys this offseason. I thought one of the Smith brothers was going to go. I thought it was going to be Preston Smith. It didn't. They figured out how to keep him. And the big one for me for the Packers is keeping Aaron Jones. I thought that was freaking huge. I know people
as a
were
Cowboys
like
fan,
Jamal Williams, but Jamal Williams is no Aaron Jones, no shot at Jamal Williams. But Aaron Jones is in that league of Christian McCaffrey, Delvin Cook, these guys who catch out the backfield and hit the hole super fast. I think he's an elite running back. The only reason I didn't say like Derrick Henry is because it's a different style of running back, because that dude's a fucking beast too.
Yeah.
I really think that the Packers are in a great spot to move forward. I think that we're going to see them make some offseason moves before it's over. I just don't think they're going to break the bank, obviously, on some free agents, because they did a lot of work just to get $20 million under the cap. But I think that we'll probably see them bring in another receiver. I know that they got to make some moves at offensive line, but that's more for depth because they had a lot of guys step up last year, so they could let bigger name guys go. I think the Packers, and it kills me to say, are in a great position to be in the NFC Championship game next year.
Yeah, I struggle to see them. I struggle to see them going backwards. I think it's kind of a season of give Rodgers whatever he wants. You know, just like say to Rodgers, "Hey man, what do you want us to do with the second round pick, third round pick? What do you want us to do? Come give us some opinions of what you want in free agency? You know, like bring in after the tumultuous end to the NFC Championship games, where there was talks of Rodgers being unhappy and wanting to leave and stuff. It's a season for them guys to come back together and just get some playmakers, man. Like there's just some guys who will make the difference to put you over the top to win that NFC Championship game and get yourselves to a Super Bowl, because you know any given game Aaron Rodgers can win you that game. So if you have a guy to get you over the top in the game where Aaron Rodgers can't get you there, then that's the guy that you want. Who would you have them pick in as their wide receiver?
See, I don't care where you get a wide receiver, free agency, the draft, go get Aaron Rodgers or wide receiver. But I also believe you got to stack that defense. You need help in that secondary. You need help at the linebackers. If you could get a better defense and takes pressures off Rodgers and makes his whole life a lot easier, he doesn't have to score 31, 35 points to win a game. But if you're going to go wide out where they're sitting, how about Tooney? Maybe if he's still sitting there.
Tooney.
Otherwise, I got him like maybe taking a linebacker like Nick Bolton. Because you're drafting so late in the first round, whatever, get you a defensive player, a starter. I'm good with that. But make sure within the first 3 rounds, go get Rodgers a playmaker, a guy who's got speed and route running. He'll figure everything else out. Rodgers will help this kid if he can run routes and has some speed, figure out how to play this game, because Rodgers is a coach on the field.
Yeah, and you've got like that gives them options, because they've got I've forgotten his name.
Devontae Adams.
They've got Devontae Adams, who is a number one, like outright number one, really good receiver. Probably not as high as people were rating him at the start of the season.
Valdez-Scantling.
They've got players, like you just want somebody who's absolutely rapid. He'll tear the brakes off it, you know. And there's the wide receiver out of Houston that I mentioned, like Marquise something that I mentioned a couple of podcasts ago. He's definitely a guy to pick in later rounds. As their first round pick, I've gone for linebacker, because you know how much I love linebackers. I've got Zaven Collins, because if he falls him, he's an absolute
Will Fuller sign? Do you know if Will Fuller signed anywhere? I know he was talking.
Will Fuller's he's not signed yet. As of us recording this, Will Fuller's not signed yet.
If you're the Packers, go get Will Fuller. Rodgers is happy, and then do whatever you want to build that defense in the draft. Yeah. I'm joking a little, but If you gave him Will Fuller and then spent every draft pick on the defense, I don't think Rodgers would be upset.
No, I don't think he would be upset at all. And then there's Joe Tyrone, who's outside linebacker and defensive end from Washington. He's got big playability in that guy. You know, they're the kind of guys that I'm talking about when it's like a guy that can push you over the edge when you're up against it, and there's just somebody who wants to bash through and just make that sack.
Their defensive line, I know it took some heat. I don't almost think that it's a bad defensive line. I don't think they have a lot of depth, so they can't rotate. And a guy that's out there that you can get for cheap, Shamar Stephen, it's a good guy. He can come in and play that big D end on a 3-4 defense, you know, and then on passing downs, he can move into that 3 technique, or in a pinch on a passing down. I've even seen him play the 4, the nose tackle. That's a guy that you get for cheap for depth. I think there's a lot of guys out there, but they need to upgrade that cornerback group.
Yeah, and they've had to let Lindsley walk, who was the center for them. I don't think that's going to
hurt him as much, though, because of all the injuries last year. They saw they have guys that can play, but that secondary got fucking torched at times. Like,
they could do with finding a guy there.
That play right before halftime with Tampa. Like, that's all
That's not lack of talent. That's not even lack of talent. That's just being stupid, and that's irritating. But that's the difference between NFL players and college players, isn't it? Like, they've all got the talent. Once you get to that D1 level, even DT level, you've got the talent. It's all up here, and he lost it for a second there.
I don't think. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, but Packers division to lose, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why I say I don't know if there's much more to say, because we could go over like free agents and like all that, but they're changing by the day, and me and you are going to come back and hit the free agency after
we'll down. Yeah, after the New England Patriots have stopped buying everybody, then we'll come back and have a little chat about that kind of thing. Moving on to the other end of the spectrum, I feel, with the Detroit Lions. How's that sound
that's
with you?
Perfect, because they're actually the most interesting, because if you think about it, they're rebuilding. They got Jared Goff. They got rid of Stafford. They picked up some picks. The Lions have been rebuilding for 40 years. And Marvin Jones, Kenny Galladay, Mohamed Sanu, and Danny Amendola all want new contracts.
That's it, isn't it?
What I mean, so what do? Do you look at Juju Smith-Schuster? Do you look at Curtis Samuels? Also,
they've just signed Tyrell Williams from the Raiders.
Okay. They're a team, too, though, that doesn't have a ton of cap space this year. So
I don't understand how they have no cap space and no talent. It's very impressive.
That's
Matt Stafford. Yeah.
I still think they're still hurting from when Matt Millen was their GM. He did such a bad job. You get rid of Stafford, that hurt your cap. I get that. That's going to hurt your cap this year. That's why you got as much as you did, because you get blasted. But in the long run, so for Detroit, it's pretty much this year. If you can get some guys in free agency, go ahead. If you can re-sign some of your own guys, that's cool too. But you're pretty much stuck building through the draft. That's pretty much where I see them. And I also see them and the Bears, unless the Bears do something with quarterback, but we'll get there, battling for the worst of the NFC North. I actually think the Lions are going to be worse than they were this year. And I'm a fan of the way they're moving. I'm not a fan of biting kneecaps off, but I am a fan of Motor City Dan Campbell.
Honestly, I love that guy. That
guy
will carry them through.
Weird to me, but yes, I like.
I love that. He sounds like a rugby coach that I once had, who just says go out and just kill people.
Detroit fans are gonna fucking hate me, but I say you go for Devontae Smith or Chase, and I know they're gonna hate me because they crushed their franchise by drafting 3 receivers in a row in the first round under Matt Millen. But if you're even going to give Jared Goff a fucking chance, and all these guys wanting new contracts, but they're in a perfect spot where at number 7, you either trade out, you draft a quarterback, or you just take the best player available.
Which will be Micah Parsons.
Which definitely could be. Yes.
Micah Parsons is the best player that they could definitely take.
Trade out.
The only issue is that their wide receiver room is just going to look so completely different. Are they going to give Goff a fair shot at this? When we were talking about the Eagles, we talked about a bit wild card. This is a bit less wild card. Like, I don't think they're going to pick a QB. I could just see the Eagles picking a QB just for the sake of it. I don't see Detroit doing that. I like Goff. I think they're going to give him a fair shot. Galladay's probably walking. He's the top of a lot of people's wish list. Yeah, he's out. Melvin Jones, he'd be a great second receiver for a lot of teams.
They got a lot of number 2s. They don't have any number 1s.
Yeah, Melvin Jones would be a great receiver for a lot of teams, though. Like, he would be a really good addition for a lot of teams. So that's the kind of thing that you're looking at. Then you've got Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Waddle,
in the draft.
Kyle Pitts. We've said a team that Kyle Pitts could not fall out of the top 10.
And in the draft, you could do something like, if there's a quarterback that Carolina wants, what do they give you to move up one spot so you don't trade it to somebody else? We've seen it happen before. The Vikings did it to the Browns for Trent Richardson. I forgot who did it to the Bears for Mitchell Trubisky. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you pick up some picks just by moving back one so that somebody else like San Francisco doesn't move up, or maybe you trade with San Francisco and they move up and take a Kelvin Mond or a Trey Waynes or a Justin Fields, depending who's sitting there. I mean, you're in a spot where you could literally move back, pick up a lot of picks to get talent, and another team could get a quarterback because you need everything if you're Detroit right now.
They need just any playmaker, man.
And Dan Campbell needs to turn this around, so give this guy as many lottery tickets as you can.
Yeah, and I think if I'm picking for them, I think you need that one star guy who's the playmaker, and then mess about in the second round with picks, if you get what I mean. So you're high and pick in the second round as well, and then
they're so bad. You don't need to get that star player this year. You need to build a team.
You can get him. You can get him next year. I just love Micah Parsons a lot, man. I just think Micah Parsons is a great player.
I'm just saying, if you can get a team to give you multiple picks this year and maybe one or two next year to get up out of that spot and drop back. Like, if you drop back to 12 for San Francisco, it's not going to kill you to drop back 5 spots.
It won't. That won't kill you. And you can still sort of, like, you'll pick up a decent wide receiver if you sat there, if that's what you want. I don't know. I imagine their offensive line needs some work.
Everything.
I'm just guessing. Everything. Every single player needs work. Jared Goff, I think they did well, like, in that trade. I would say they won that trade
because they didn't like. Poor Matt Stafford needed out of there for one. You don't need to pay a guy that much to rebuild, and you got a bridge quarterback with a couple first-round picks. Yeah, I think it was great for them. I think it was great for Matt Stafford, but I think it's sad for Detroit to see that they wasted a decade of a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Yeah, they messed up Matt Stafford, and he's one of my favorite. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league, so I will never forgive. I will never forgive them for that. Sorry, I've got tweets coming through the whole time, and I thought I saw Detroit like on the thing there, and I was like,
"Oh, no worry!
What a coincidence!" And then the team that you believe is going to be facing off for the basement, and I imagine that's because you're a Vikings fan, so you don't think that they'll be fighting for the basement. But
I'm
Chicago Bears.
I'm a pretty honest guy.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. The Bears. But see, the Bears are. I don't want to use the word awful because they're also a team that has playmakers and their defense is pretty good. But you're so screwed at your offense. Like,
they're in a really strange situation of they have one of the best things on one side of the ball and nobody on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, and you're going to lose. Like, Robinson doesn't want to be there. So even if you franchise tag him, you ain't getting him long term. I don't believe, like, with the franchise tag. You don't have a quarterback. What are you going to do? Bring back Mitch Trubisky? It's the worst thing that could happen for him and the Bears. You're going to ride with Nick Foles? Well, maybe. What are you going to do? Go out and get a Marcus Mariota, maybe?
I've got Marcus Mariota written down. Tyrell Taylor, Sam Darnold. If you want to play that game with the Jets,
they don't have a lot of money. They had like $6 million going into this, but you need to go out and get a Trent Williams or a Russell Okung, a Villanueva. You need offensive line. I mean, what the fuck do the Bears do? I think they have so many deficiencies, and they don't have any cap money to even bring in middle range guys to help them fix their team. So unless you're going to do a trade for, say, Russell Wilson, and then
that's
I feel like you almost have to give up Khalil Mack just so you can afford to bring in Russell Wilson. That's
the outlier, isn't it? It's, can they get Russell Wilson? because that, for some reason, they think that completely fixes their offense if they get Russell Wilson, which I think
it makes them a ton better. Don't get me wrong.
Ridiculous. It makes them loads better, but you still need, like Russell. You need someone to throw to, and if he's got a problem in Seattle with the offensive line, he's not going to be much happier in Chicago, is he? That's the thing, is it? That's the thing, isn't it? So it's kind of like Russell Wilson doesn't really fix them. There's only a couple of teams that Russell Wilson fixes because of the tall amount of draft capital that they have, and that's teams like Miami. He doesn't ruin the Jets because the Jets have enough picks and that kind of thing. I just don't think Chicago can put together a package that'll make the Seahawks want to do it. Or I could see the Seahawks doing it because Pete Carroll is the dictator of the Seahawks and he's clearly fallen out with him. So I could see Pete Carroll convincing them to do it, but it wouldn't work for either side. Really, they're drafting at the 20th.
Yeah, who do you got taking? Who do you got them taking?
Tony, the wide receiver from Florida.
Okay, everybody I got is an offensive lineman because I think that's their need, and I think they're at the sweet spot. So I got the usual suspects.
Tevin Collins,
Jalen Mayfield, you know what I mean? So instead of listing everything, if you've listened to us in the last 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you've heard all the names. But I just feel like they're in the freaking sweet spot at 20 if they don't move to get a really solid lineman that'll be there for 12 years. Yeah,
definitely. Or just a guy that, with Allen Robinson probably leaving, whatever quarterback you bring in is going to need. I love Marcus Mariota, by the way, as a guy that they could go for. I've got him written down. I think that's a really good shot. And haven't thought about Tyrell Taylor. I think Tyrell Taylor would be a good shot for them as well. And that kind of leaves them with the ability to kind of, if they put a wide receiver on there, at least he has a guy to throw to, with Allen Robinson probably leaving. So Rashad Bateman again, Terrence Marshall Jr. if he makes it that far down.
Then you take it a late
round,
go take a developmental quarterback and see if you can turn him into something.
Yeah, Kyle Trask is a guy that I've watched the film on him. Like, he's probably like Kyle Trask is good enough to like make it to be a decent quarterback in the NFL. I'm not saying he's
right, but you take a guy like him, sit him behind Mariota for 2 years, see if you can develop him. I don't think that's the worst idea ever.
Yeah, because I really like Mariota as the kind of guy. Sam Darnold again, but I don't think that's a good spot for Sam Darnold.
And I don't think you have.
It doesn't really work for him.
Like, what you're going to give up that 20th pick for him? Then
there are other teams that they can give more for Sam Darnold. So Denver. I think we've both decided that Denver is the sweetest spot for Sam Darnold and the sweetest spot for the Jets to trade to for Sam Darnold because
for the Bears
I think it just kind of works for everyone.
For the Bears to win this year, it has to be defense.
Yeah, well, that's how the Bears win most of the time. Like, Jay Cutler's been their best quarterback in, 20, 30 years? No, there's one other guy, and I always forget his name because it was way before I was born.
Oh, okay. I'm just saying, like, Jim McMahon won a Super Bowl, but if you go by stats, Cutler was the best. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah, Cutler was decent, but that's been their best quarterback. Russell Wilson walks into that room, by the way, and he's one of the best. He's immediately one of the best quarterbacks in Bears history, and I think that is a definite attraction for him. The reason our energy's kind of died off, guys, is because the Bears are just not in an incredible spot to do anything. It's not that they're going to be bad. Their defense is amazing. They'll win games. It's just,
and then
when you're playing GM with them, you just kind of sat there just like, what am I meant to do with this?
They barely have enough money right now to sign their draft picks when they come. So are they going to end up having to cut Akeem Hicks too? Because that will crush that run stop. I just think the Bears are in a bad spot right now, and I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel until starting next year.
Yeah, they have to either dismantle their defense this year, which why would you do that, or just wait until next year and just take the hit. And I think there'll be a few teams kind of doing that with the way that the franchise tag's kind of planning out. Then there are a few teams that could definitely
and you can start next year with a new coach and a new GM because that's coming.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like you just give them unless they pull off a miracle. Matt Nagy's probably not going to be there. And to finish off our NFL roundup of every single team, we go for Jay's hometown Minnesota Vikings. So, how are you feeling about the Vikings this offseason?
Goal Nation. All right, so I got to admit, I didn't know what the hell we were going to do coming into free agency because we had no room and we had a lot of free agents, and Rob Brzezinski, the Cat Wizard, and trader Rick Spielman figured it out. Not only did they bring back Stephen Weatherly, they signed Tomlinson
Now
from
the
a
Giants.
true 3 technique since Kevin fucking Williams. Okay, 1 year with Sheldon Richardson, and with Pierce coming back, that's our Pat Williams. And after those signings, they still have about 15 million cap space. And I love what they did with Anthony Barr, because I am an Anthony Barr fan. I hated his contract. So anybody who doesn't know, Barr had a few years left on his contract, needed 15 million this year, was against the cap. They redid his contract, so he's 9 against the cap with some phantom 2 years to spread a little bit of money, but they let him go into
the secret voyages.
They let him go to free agency next year because Troy Dye is coming. Troy Dye is coming. He was our rookie linebacker and played out of his mind last year for a rookie. He's super athletic out of Oregon. He can run side to side. He plays the pass. He plays the run. So I think the Vikings are actually setting themselves up in a good spot. I seen Ian Rappaport said they didn't get him, but they're after some of the top defensive ends, which I think DJ Wanham with Daniil Hunter coming back is a good move. They're going to make up more cap space by re-signing Hunter to a restructured contract. They're going to do it to Harrison Smith. So I really think that the Vikings are in a better spot than people think. So what they need, if you ask me, is safety. You need to upgrade at the O-line. We need 2 guards right now. 2 guards, because we're going to take Ezra Cleveland. We're going to move him to left guard. Brian O'Neill's a top left tackle. Brian O'Neill's a top tackle, right tackle. And we have Bradbury as a great center, so we need 2 guards. But other than that, our offense is straight. We got a good receiving core. We go 4 deep in our receiving room. I know a lot of people might not know Olabisi Johnson or Chad Beebe, but these guys can play. I know Rudolph left, but people don't. If you don't, you know Irv Smith, but you probably don't know Tyler Conklin. You will. I mean, I think the Vikings are set up really good. They have 2 good running backs. Their defense was bad last year, but with Mike Zimmer, he is a defensive coach that had all rookie corners. So we need secondary help. We need offensive line help. But other than that, I think the Vikings are straight. I think they're a good team. And quit shitting on Kirk Cousins, you guys. I got to say this. I've been holding this all offseason. So they say he can't win a Monday night game. He comes to Minnesota, wins a Monday night game. Can't win a Thursday night game, comes to Minnesota, wins Thursday night. Can't go to the playoffs, goes to Minnesota, goes to playoff. Can't win a playoff game. Daggers the Saints in overtime. He was on a shitty Washington team that sold their whole team for RG3. And I'm not saying he's an elite quarterback, but he is second tier, and PFF has him as the 6th best quarterback in football. Who the fuck are we going to get that's better? Let's get rid of Cousins. Things is crazy to me. It's crazy, and I had to get that off my chest.
Yeah, and that was to the NFC group. That was to the NFC fan group that will be posting this. That will be posting this, and they're absolutely destroying you over there.
And if you're watching and you comment a lot, LA, you know who I'm talking about. Get off my boy, Cousins. That's first Cousins.
I kind of looked at it and I was like, oh, the Vikings they're in a good spot. Like they've got a solid quarterback. It's unfortunate that you guys are a small market team, because I do enjoy watching you guys, but I don't know a lot of your players. Like I know obviously the big names. You do need a safety, considering Harris seems to be walking, to the Cowboys.
It's a little sad.
Walking on straight down to Dallas.
I think he is going to your Cowboys too.
Yeah. A guy that could come back that we spoke about that can make them better is Everson Griffin. Guy making his way back. I would love to
see him come back in a rotation. The only problem that I see is we're pretty deep with those guys, because a lot of people might not know it, but Afadi Adenabo, 8 sacks. You know what I mean? The last couple of years. He's a guy who's up and coming. We bring Stephen Weatherly back because he tested some in Carolina, came back. That's depth. I think DJ Wanham is going to be a stud like Daniil Hunter on the other side. And I really believe that they're either going to pick up a big signing in free agency, or I honestly think that our first draft pick is a D-end or an offensive lineman.
Yeah, so if you draft at 14, which is a good sweet spot for Vera Tucker. That's the kind of guy that we like. It is a steal if Micah Parsons makes it that far. Imagine,
or
imagine your linebacker call, like your linebacker call with Micah Parsons or Xavier Collins in there. They can both definitely make it down there.
over Vera Tucker, and I like him. I would rather see them go like maybe if he's still there. How about taking
Sean
Michigan
Slater.
defensive lineman, Quentin Payne?
Yeah, I was meant to say him for the Eagles, but we started going so far off on a wide receiver tangent.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely great kind of player. I'm not sure whether he'll be there. Gregory Rousseau, he can make it. He's the kind of guy that you guys should be interested in. I think the Vikings are in a really, really good spot. I just would love to see. Honestly, I just get so happy about linebackers. My brother's actually a linebacker for Manchester University American football team, and it's kind of like they're really good fun to watch. And imagine Micah Parsons or Xavier Collins, those kind of guys would be good. But if you pick him for a need, then it's Vera Tucker or Slater. If Slater from Northwest makes it, but I don't think he makes it. But if he does make it, then he's there.
Vera Tucker is a great pick only because of his versatility. He can play tackle or guard. Now, I think he's more of a guard in the NFL because he's got shorter arms, but that doesn't always matter. But like if somebody gets hurt, you can shift him to a tackle and he'll be able to play because he's played it at a high level.
Yeah, I also think there are a lot of guys that can really work in the second round as guards and tackles. So Taven Collins could easily fall out the first round. He's a guy that could definitely fall. There doesn't seem to be a lot of. While I've been doing this, I've been basically scouring through mock drafts, and he's always on the edge. So that's a guy you could pick in the second round if you want to just get a difference maker on defense to start.
It'll crush me.
Budzu.
It'll crush me, but most people have the Vikings trading back.
I can see them trading back.
Well, because
I think it will make sense.
For linemen, you can go into the 20s and still get that lineman.
Yeah.
And because of our fucked Yannick trade, we got a third back, but we lost a second, so we have no second, even though we have 3/3. I think if you could trade back and pick up a second, I think that's kind of what they're thinking about doing. But going into the draft, I think the Vikings have 10 picks already. And last year, Rick Spielman broke a record with 15 draft picks in the NFL draft, which is, for years I've been saying it, but he proved it last year. I call him Trader Rick.
Yeah, the compensatory draft picks have really helped out both of our teams this season because Dallas have got quite a few of them as well. And they're in the sweet spots where Dallas likes to pick good O-linemen that they can develop and stuff like that as well. So those compensatory draft picks are great. And I think Minnesota are in a really good spot. They're not in the best spot. There are things that you would want. You would rather not have to fix your offensive line. You would rather have
they've ignored it way too long.
Yeah, exactly. And if you knew it was going to be a problem, then why haven't they gone in early? Where the Chargers have gone in early, the Kansas City Chiefs have tried to fix it early on.
It's because they sold less guys waiting on Cousins that 1 year, the first year. They sold that out for Cousins. But the Vikings do an awesome job in the late rounds, and I won't name off everybody, but just think of a Danielle Hunter, 4th round. Stephon Diggs, 5th round. I can name it. They have really good guys in the late rounds, so I have a lot of faith in the Viking scouting department to give us solid starters and depth in the late rounds. So fix our offensive line, unless, this is going to sound dumb as fuck, is somehow a guy like Kyle Pitts or Devontae Smith fall to you, you have to take them. You have to.
With that first round pick, you do have to pick. You've got to pick the best guy on the board a lot of the time. You fix needs a bit later on. I personally think you don't. The only issue is the only bad situation for the Vikings is their need is so glaring and important on the offensive line, and it's an important and this season seemingly expensive position to fix. So that's the only issue that they've really got. They could be in a better spot, but personally,
we need a guard. We need a guard in free agency. We need a solid guard, one of the two in free agency. I really, and I know a lot of Vikings fans are worried about that secondary because they were young, but don't be. Cameron Dantzler is a stud, and he's a number 1. Jeff Gladney is a stud. They just didn't have an offseason. So don't take their first 8 games. Watch their last 8 games.
Yeah.
These kids can play. Chris Boyd can play. I'm not sure. I don't think they're going to pick up the 5th-year option on Mike Hughes, but you can bring in a veteran, like even say, why did I go blank? A Sherman, a Richard Sherman or somebody into that room. So I don't think the Vikings have to worry about their corners. We just need a safety. But Harrison Hand played all right at safety when he had to fill in last year.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of offensive linemen, they've still got guys available. They've got Kyle Fuller, Tyrell Williams is still there, but that's wishful thinking. Russell Okun, Eric Fisher, Riley Reef, Ty Turner, Gabe Jackson. There's still enough guys like there that you can.
Yeah, we have to get a guard,
a
serviceable guard, and then you're only worried about one position on the offensive line, which you can fix.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And to finish off, because we have an interview with a very special guest coming up this evening. Where do you see the Vikings finishing in the NFC North?
Okay, my heart, we're winning it. My head, we're taking second and making the playoffs as a wild card.
You've got them making the playoffs, right? Okay.
I do, because they're 7, and I think even if we squeak into that 7th spot, if we could have, as shitty as we started last year because of that young defense, we had a chance at the end to make a push for that playoffs. And I think that defense is going to be nothing but better. And that offense was humming at the end of the year.
Yeah, that offense was that. Delvin Cook is an absolute.
And Justin Jefferson was the biggest deal in the draft.
Justin Jefferson, great work in the draft and getting Justin Jefferson. And I think it's the Packers division. I think Minnesota could make a play, but I think they've got to have a very strong free agency to make a play. Like, they've got a fixed offensive line. They could probably do with another guy in the secondary. And I always love another weapon. Just whack in another. Just if you can. So that was that's it. We've done the whole NFL.
And we made it before the free agent deadline. How amazing is that?
It's almost like we planned it.
All right, guys, I said it on the last one, but we got to get going. We have an interview coming up with Street Beast heavyweight champion Shinigami, so be watching for that. All right, guys, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all the podcasting platforms.
Wait. Former Cowboys QB Andy Dalton is signing a 1-year, $10 million deal with the chance to earn another $3 million with the Chicago Bears.
Well, there you go. I thought Alex...
That changes everything.
All right, we ended on some Bears news. Bears, I don't know if that's good or bad, but we ended you with a bet.
I'm heartbroken.
He's an upgrade from Trubisky.
I love Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton is a great pick for the Bears, but we'll talk. Let's make a whole nother video on some free agent trades a bit later down the line. So we'll see you guys soon.
All right, one world, one love. Deuces.
Cheerio.